Yeah, well, the show's not quite done yet. I mean, I'm working on. I had a problem with the intro, but I improvised. Yeah, luckily the music came. No, I haven't even heard it yet, but I mean, they promised '80s punk rock, and I trust them. I'll listen to them once it's all put together. No, I'm just kind of stuck right now. I'm trying to figure out what should I do for my intros and my segues. Well, yeah, right off the bat, I just want everybody to know that I appreciate that they're watching the preview episode of Abaraca Pocus, and let them know they can subscribe at www.horizonmonster.com. Yeah, individuals are $30 for 4 quarterly episodes, straight to them on DVD. And then I have a club rate, it's $60, and that allows a local club the right to show episodes at their local meetings and loan the disc out to their local members. Yeah. Well, the next one's already shaping up. I'm going to shoot a bunch of footage out at the Magic Collectors Weekend in Arlington, Virginia at the end of the month. Uh-huh. Oh, this one's good too. I mean, I start with this neat segment on a guy named Corey Harris. Yeah, I wouldn't expect you to know Corey. He's an amateur magician, but he's also a professional wrestler, so it's kind of a neat story.
My dad was in the Air Force. He was a tech sergeant in the Air Force. We were stationed out in Mountain Home Air Force Base, Idaho. My first interest in magic sparked, I guess, when I was about 6 years old, around 1988. And it was watching the David Copperfield special for the Bermuda Triangle. First time I'd ever seen anything that impressive. First time I'd ever seen any magic. After I saw that, I actually had a friend that lived across the street from me where they had a full library of all the David Copperfield specials that had aired up to that point. So I actually went over there, watched all the specials I could, and finally decided that would be something interesting to do. So I told my mom. She went out and bought me one of those cheap S&S Adams magic sets and just started learning from there. I had the cheap plastic cups and balls set, only instead of balls it came with sponge bunnies and just the cheap little paper props. I got interested in professional wrestling. I guess I was about the same age, 6 or 7 years old. I was actually flipping through the channels. This is when WWE was still on NBC, filling in once a month for Saturday Night Live. Turn on to the matches. It was Jake the Snake Roberts versus Rick Martel. They just did a vignette of the model spraying his perfume in Jake's eyes and making him go blind. From then on, I was hooked, along with Jake Roberts being one of my big influences was the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. Definitely a lot of my style currently as a professional wrestler is styled a lot off of Ted DiBiase's. Now, as I got older, I got into professional wrestling. I guess I was about 20, and I actually got in the ring for the first time from a trainer. He came to me at a rough time in my life. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do with my life. I wasn't quite sure how far I'd go with the rest of my life. And he kind of pulled me out of that pickle and told me, it's like, well, you look like a big boy. Have you ever thought about being a professional wrestler? So the next day I journeyed on out to his house, got in his ring, and basically had the tar beaten out of me just to get in the ring for a chance to be a professional wrestler. Yes, I'm mainly a bad guy. And that's the easiest character for me to play. As a bad guy, you don't have to work as hard to get your character across to the fans. You just go out there, and most times you can just be yourself. I'm actually a very, very shy guy in person, and I'm just taking that inner spirit of me and taking it out there, just making everyone get mad at me. My dad always told me that was the best thing. I could get someone so aggravated at me they'd want to kill me. I definitely work my character to the limit. I have been fined by the State of Missouri Athletic Commission for spitting at fans and actually grabbing fans. In Kansas, actually just a few months, well, I shouldn't say a few months ago, a few matches ago when I was actually still wrestling, a fan jumped up out of a seat and got in my face and threatened me I've been stabbed with a plastic fork and had to walk to the ring with the tines of the fork stuck in my side and pull them out in the ring. I've been hit with the fan. I've been spit on. I've had fans wait out by my car. I've had to have escorts take me to my car on some occasions when I've wrestled in Missouri. I've even had wrestlers give me the bright idea of making anti-American statements for wrestling because they were pro-American, and I've had my life threatened for those as well. May of 2005, I actually, it was during a routine wrestling move. I was hitting a vertical suplex, and I actually broke my back upon the impact of the move. Prior to that, I was actually wrestling with a compression fracture in my lower spine that I actually thought was a hip problem. Got it checked out. My doctor said, oh, it was okay to wrestle with. Just be cautious of legs going numb or any kind of loss of feeling in my lower extremities. So stupidly enough, I went ahead and kept the old school mentality and kept wrestling with it. And in the middle of probably about the first 5 minutes of the match, I hit the vertical suplex, and my lower half of my body turned almost completely around, and lost all feeling in my legs. The video is actually kind of funny because I'm sitting there beating my legs to death because I have no feeling in them. When the feeling does come back, I actually finish the rest of the match, probably an additional 6 to 8 minutes I finish. And get the match done. I climb out of the ring, and I actually turned my leg backwards, completely around backwards, and it locked into place. And walked back to the locker room with one foot facing the normal way, the other foot facing backwards, and actually drove home that night and didn't see a doctor for about 2 or 3 days. Anytime you face a doctor with a major injury, you face a chance of them coming up to you and telling you, like, you'll never be able to get in the ring again. You're not going to be able to walk again without the use of a cane, without the use of a wheelchair or anything like that. So it's just kind of that fear setting in my head, being told you won't be able to wrestle again. I actually went to an orthopedic surgeon, and they took more x-rays and showed me the pretty picture of the crack in my back. And I was basically given 4 options. I could either have my back laid open and have them remove the damaged discs and just them leave it like that. I'd end up being shorter by about 6 inches to a foot. I could go see one of 2 specialists in the country that could actually take out the disc and then replace it with plastic parts. My other 2 options was to have my back actually fused, and I would have been back into wrestling within about 6 months, or I could have just had the disc shaved down to relieve pressure on the cracked vertebrae. The doctor actually thought I was crazy because I asked if there was an option that didn't lead down the road of surgery, and he said I could just take about a year off from wrestling and I should be healed fine. That's the route I ended up taking. I didn't want to have the surgery. I have a fear of waking up during being under a knife. I have a couple friends that have actually woken up during surgery. So for me, it was more about letting it heal and seeing how far I could go. And it's healed pretty nice. Shortly after the injury, I was walking around pretty well and actually threw out my back. And I was bedridden for about a week and a half. As I was bedridden, I actually was stuck on a couch 2 floors below my room, and kept about 5 magic books with me, just reading over them, practicing, looking for things that I could add to my repertoire, and just trying to get more of a sense of feeling. I think in that 1 week, I think I gained more knowledge in magic than I had in prior weeks, because before I get a little distracted, be practicing some magic, see something on TV, go to that. This time I didn't really have the option. The only thing on TV was my mom was recording her soap operas. So during Young and the Restless and As the World Turns, I'd have to have nothing else to do but practice magic. It's really strange. I had this horrible fear of performing magic for people, yet people ask me, it's like, you're a professional wrestler, you're 300 plus pounds, you wear spandex and wrestle in front of 500 people. You can't take a deck of cards and do an ambitious card routine for 3 people. It's a totally different mentality when it comes to that. I wouldn't say there's much of a crossover. They're both entertaining, but you have 2 different aspects of entertaining. One's more physical, in means of being picked up 6 feet in the air and slammed either on a concrete or in the actual ring itself. And the other one, with magic, I see it as more of a mental game. I'm working towards actually being able to get up the nerve to perform in front of people. When I'm around a couple of magicians, everyone always says performing in front of magicians is the hardest thing. When I have an idea for something that I'm working on, or just I'm trying to brainstorm, the first thing I do is come actually to the magic shop and show a couple of magicians here what I'm working on. Let them, kind of get a feeling for where I'm at in the process of it. And, hopefully one day I'll be able to get over that hump and actually perform for people. Right now it's just a hobby,